Hello, Lab Out Loud listeners. Before we get started today, I just want to let you know that at our website, we have t-shirts. It's been something that people have been requesting for a while now, and it is here. So if you head over to our website, you can see on the right-hand side, there'll be a link to getting our t-shirt, and you can go there, buy a t-shirt. It helps support the show, show off Lab Out Loud, tell your friends about it, take pictures wearing the new shirt, and send it out to us. We'd love to see you wearing Lab Out Loud with pride. And now, on with the show. Support for Lab Out Loud is provided by the National Science Teachers Association. Find out more at nsta.org. You're listening to Lab Out Loud, science for the classroom and beyond. And today we're talking about sensors and what happens when we put them in our hands, especially when we put them in students' hands.
And what they found was the route that they walked to school passed by this idling zone for all these big diesel trucks, and they're being exposed to very high concentrations of soot on their walk to school. And so after they got this data, the students changed how they walked to school, they changed their routes, and then they created a no idle zone where these trucks had previously been so that they could improve the local air quality right there on that street corner. So there's some real actionable discoveries that people are making from having these new capabilities.
That's up next on Lab Out Loud. But first, I'm your co-host, Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartell. You know, we're laughing now because this is the thing that listeners don't hear behind the scenes is that we had this little discussion about what are we going to say? And we forgot what we were going to say. We had to kind of go back through it. Well,
in the last episode at the end, this episode, I found myself at the end not shutting it off and just singing a little PocketLab tune to myself, which is PocketLab. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still recording that. So I might just stick this at the end of the show. You listen all the way past the music, you can hear me singing to myself for no apparent reason.
Yes, of course, listeners, if you realize we usually do, of course, the interview and then we do the intro. So yeah, it's a little like time shifting there.
Yeah, like right now, I can go back and have Clifton introduce himself.
Yes, my name is Clifton Roozeboom, and I'm the founder of PocketLab, and I mostly do engineering and develop products for science education so that teachers and students can go out and explore the world around them.
So some of you may have remembered we had Clifton on the show before talking about the original PocketLab, but they've gone pretty successful, and they have a new product that does some sensing that we haven't really seen in other products that much. So we're excited to hear about it.
Refresh my memory. When did PocketLab start?
I started working on it in October of 2013 as I was finishing up my PhD. And it was in development for about a year and a half while I was doing my research in mechanical engineering. And then we got into things full-time in March of 2015 when we met.
And PocketLab has been a success, right? You've done pretty well because you've added a few products to your lineup. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we're growing steadily, and we have 3 products that are on the market right now. So we launched our first product, which now we call PocketLab 1, back in March of 2015, and we did that via a Kickstarter campaign. And we've shipped that product now to, I think, 56 different countries, and there's tens of thousands of students that use it. And it's really focused on physical science and engineering capabilities for you to be able to measure the altitude and acceleration of a rocket by putting PocketLab on the rocket. And then it will send data wirelessly via Bluetooth to a connected device like an iPad or smartphone or Chromebook.
For listeners that don't know PocketLab, it's a small sensor. You can replace the battery in it. Connects via Bluetooth, and I'd say it's as big as one of those extra wide pack of gum.
Yeah,
the Pocket One was.
Yeah, like a Matchbox car.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
I was gonna say Hubba Bubba, like a pack of gum, but some listeners may be like, what? Okay, so what are some novel ways that you've seen teachers and students using it in the classroom?
Some really cool ones have come from sort of out-of-the-box ideas where a ballet dancer has attached it to her waist and measured her spinning, doing different moves, pirouettes, different ballet moves, and to try to quantify is there can we tell the difference between schools of ballet and the way that ballet is practiced? That one was very cool.
That must be neat because you have the feature, it shows the data as it's being collected, and then behind the data is you can take input from the camera. So you could have the ballet dancer dancing while the data is recording overlaid over it, right?
Exactly. It's kind of, we've been doing it for a while, and it's kind of like an augmented reality view of science, which we never really, we didn't think it was augmented reality 3 years ago when we came up with it, but kind of seeing these trends in overlaying virtual data onto real-time video. Yeah, we've been doing that for a while. So any activity where there's motion and movement and there's something interesting happening in the foreground, you can put PocketLab in there and then see in a more quantitative way what's going on. So yeah, ballet examples are really good.
I need a ballet coach and I need a data coach.
Yeah, yeah. That's the tough part, is you need to know something about ballet and science to be able to tell what's going on.
I'm not going to crush your dreams, Brian, but I would say stick to the data.
I'm not going to be the ballet data coach, not in my resume.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what the data means either in terms of how to improve your ballet pirouette.
So what else has been something that's like an eye-opener, like, oh, wow, we never thought that would be used in this fashion?
Yeah, we used it with a Stanford mechanical engineering course last year, and the students were given the task of coming up with open-ended projects that if they had a sensor that can measure all these different parameters like acceleration or motion or altitude, what would they come up with? And they had some really interesting ideas, like a next generation life alert that they called Granny Tracker.
Oh, wow.
So if your grandmother fell over and broke her hip, like how could you, in an automated way, alert 911 or alert the family members? If you remember those old Life Alert commercials where it's like, I've
fallen and I can't get up. Yeah.
Can we automate that?
I think they're still on.
Yeah, I think so. But now it's the 21st century.
Yeah. Or could we like deploy airbags, like hip airbags, and
oh, wow.
Yeah, prevent the injury. We've seen a lot of people put it on their helmets and doing like downhill mountain biking or skiing to quantify what's going on with their movement and altitude and acceleration. And those make for really good videos because you have the interesting scenery change.
Do you know, with the Winter Olympics coming around the corner, do the Olympians do that? I mean, they don't, obviously. We don't see any of that when we watch them, but they must use sensors, or maybe, I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. I know that football, both soccer and American football, they now have a lot of motion tracking sensors that are embedded in their uniforms or in their pads to sense where they're at on the field and know how fast they're moving.
Really?
Yeah. And then also there have been a few pilot studies of putting sensors into mouthpieces for football players and women's lacrosse players to detect concussions and head injuries from impacts. But
I think I've heard something on that actually. There's a company that's looking at that right now and trying to get into the market of what they can do to measure it.
I'm just imagining if you could find one of the
Olympians
that are doing like skeleton, slip one in their pocket here, go head first.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see that data and yeah, I'd like a visit to the Winter Olympics. If you guys have any connections.
Oh yeah. We'll work on that.
We'll see what we can do, Cliff.
It's winter here. That's the only connection we have.
Yeah, we see snow. Now you've been doing a few things since the PocketLab and now PocketLab 1. Where have you branched out?
So we launched PocketLab 1 in March 2015, and then we launched 2 more products, PocketLab Voyager, which is another all-in-one science lab that extends the capabilities of PocketLab 1, and then a compact weather center called PocketLab Weather. And then we launched those on Kickstarter again back in November of 2016, and then shipped that to customers last summer. And similar capabilities with added memory features and some other new capabilities. And then most recently, we have launched a product called PocketLab Air, and that's branching out for us into a new area of science targeting environmental and outdoor education, moving away from the physics and engineering use cases for PocketLab 1 and PocketLab Voyager. Mm-hmm. So that's the big new focus, is our product called PocketLab Air.
And that's kind of off the beaten path for as far as sensors go, and sort of what caught our eye to it, because, I mean, there are other sensor packages that you can buy, but an air quality one seems to be novel at the moment.
We think so, and it's a new innovation in terms of the chemical gas sensors being, for the first time, able to give you accurate readings at a low enough cost that it's usable in education. So in PocketLab Air, the capabilities can measure CO2 concentration, particulate matter, which is like dust and soot particles in the air, and ozone, and then also weather parameters, so temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, and light intensity. And those weather sensors have been around for many years at a low cost. But the gas sensors, because of changes in manufacturing and innovations in MEMS and other sort of sensor technologies, for the first time, you're able to get these measurements without a big piece of equipment that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And it's starting to open up this new area for education and for research.
Oh, wow. And yeah, so there's a lot of things that students could do with that to collect about the environment. I even wonder if it's going to be used in a way that schools and communities may not want to know about what's in the air around them.
Yeah,
I think what is going on in our boys' restroom on the third floor?
Well, I think about a few years ago, I had my children's classroom had they had horrible windows, and it was just lined up with the sun perfectly. And some of those summer days, as we were getting back into the school year and at the end of the year, they were I put a sensor in there, and you could watch it climb up, and it was getting into the 90s and above, and you could see it dip when the students left the classroom, and then it would climb back up as the bodies came in. And I used that, and I think that was part of the impetus of getting new windows. We did it somewhat district wide, but they didn't necessarily want to know that piece of information. So
watch out for that guy; he's carrying sensors.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a whole this movement around these ideas of environmental justice. And how do local environments change? And we don't have the capabilities to measure that very well right now, because equipment is so expensive and it's really dispersely located. But if you give people a low-cost sensor that they can carry around with them, you're right. In all seriousness, you might find out things that are like problems that you need to deal with for the first time.
Well, I think it's like a good problem. I bought one of those infrared lasers to measure temperature, and I'm not worried terribly about the precision, but what it allowed me to do is to find hot spots in my house or cold spots, and and we have radiant heat, so I can find out if the pipes are working or not and things like that, and very easily. And you find out things that you may need to look at and remedy, but that's not a horrible thing either.
Yeah, I think more knowledge is generally good, and that way you can go out and address the problem.
It's a good claim evidence reasoning thing here. In the past, we wouldn't have had a capability to collect that evidence, and now we're making that easier and putting it in the hands of classroom students.
Yeah, I agree. And we've talked with, as we've been developing PocketLab Air, we've had a chance to engage with a lot of air quality researchers at the university level, and with some of the regulators at the EPA and some of these air quality management districts. And some of the stories are really interesting. We were talking with one air quality researcher where they're looking at student exposure to particulate matter and just on their walk to school. And so he gave students a sensor so they can measure what's what's called PM 2.5, so particulate matter in the air that's 2.5 microns, particle sizes and smaller. And what they found was the route that they walked to school passed by this idling zone for all these big diesel trucks, and they're being exposed to very high concentrations of soot on their walk to school. And it's unhealthy for anybody, and it's especially unhealthy for children that are developing and for their lungs. And so after they got this data, I think it was kind of like a science fair project, but it turned into real actionable data that the students changed how they walked to school, they changed their routes, and then they created a no idle zone where these trucks had previously been, so that they could improve the local air quality right there on that street corner. So there's some real actionable sort of discoveries that people are making from having these new capabilities.
So you have this new product, and when will it be available then?
So we did another Kickstarter. This is our third one, and that one ran from November to December, so a couple months ago.
Yeah, just closed. Successful, of course?
Yes. Yeah, we're 3 for 3 now.
Nice.
And we the product should be shipping in fall 2018 in time for the fall school year.
Okay, wow. So teachers might even want to put, when can they order them if they wanted to like save some money in their budget this spring? Yeah.
You can go online to our website and place a pre-order, or we have we're doing a continued pre-order on Indiegogo. So it's a similar platform to Kickstarter, but they give you capabilities of doing an online pre-sale, and so they could go and search for PocketLab on Indiegogo and find it there.
And eventually you'll have it on Amazon, is my guess, because you've had the other items there too?
Yeah, Amazon, our website, and then we have a few catalog company educational resellers that if you commonly buy supplies from them, you can find it there.
All right. So what's next?
So we are working on a couple grants to now connect these sensors, and we really think that the power of going out and measuring air quality or emissions is multiplied if you have these devices networked. And so you can see your measurements and put it on a map, but you can also see what every other PocketLab user is collecting. And so we're building out that cloud software to network these devices so that we have a community of users contributing to our knowledge of air quality and emissions. And like you can think of platforms like Weather Underground. That's super popular, and people just love contributing data and looking around and seeing like how does like weather and climate change from this one street to this neighborhood 2 blocks over, and just having that detailed information about weather. Now imagining having that about ozone concentration and smog and other emissions in a similar way. That's what we're trying to build out.
What about water quality? Like I think about in our area in Michigan, testing for lead in the water and things like that. And that's something that
PocketLab Dunk.
But that could easily be something that's actionable within a school. And again, something that they probably don't want to know about. But
I think water quality is on our radar as potentially the next PocketLab product. Water quality is tricky. Like you have water, you have electronics. How do you keep the electronics operating when you're getting them wet? And a lot of water quality testing is not done real time. So you take a sample, you send it off to a lab, and then you get the results back. So the innovations in providing real time sensor data aren't they're not as advanced in water quality as they are in air quality, because for air you need to have an immediate answer. You can't. It's difficult to take an air sample, then send it away to a lab, and then come back. And then if you did that, the time scale, the lag on that would would mean your data isn't very relevant to
Nope.
to your conditions. So water quality, we've when we were doing the Kickstarter, we had lots of questions and environmental educators who are interested in this. That was a common question. It's like, oh, we love this. Now, how quickly can you get us something so that we can go out and measure like streams and ponds and collect data around those?
Well, it's a good problem to have, is success and demand for future products and possibilities.
Yeah, it's good. It's good market research.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Clifton, and we look forward to seeing it. We're going to get our hands on one or two of these and see what we can do and collect with it. So hopefully we'll be able to share some of that out with listeners later on and in a few months, and we'll go from there.
We can have a face-off between our air quality of our homes and schools, Brian.
You have middle school and high school kids, so I think you're going to win, or is that lose in that situation?
It's pretty much losing.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Clifton, and we look forward to seeing the PocketLab Air and what else you might have in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
If you'd like to learn more about today's episode, head on over to our website, laboutloud.com, for more information. You can also find details about all the previous episodes, and you can leave us feedback and comments. We want to hear from you.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure you've subscribed on iTunes, Google Play Music, or your favorite podcasting platform. And if you really enjoyed it, consider leaving us a rating or a review. Your feedback helps others find our show.
If you like Lab Out Loud and you love the show that we provide for you, please consider supporting the show at our Patreon page. Head on over to patreon.com/laboutloud for more information. Until next time, I'm Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartell.
Pocket Lab, Pocket Lab. I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown, bring a Pocket Lab. I'm Pocket Lab. I'm a Pocket Lab. Pocket Lab.
Do you ever think we're going to have voice automated like science equipment, like Alexa, turn on my fume hood?
Sorry, I didn't find my head.
She was listening to me in the background. She said she couldn't find the fume hood.
Well, this intro is complete garbage.